What's up, everybody? Chris here with Klingspor's Woodworking Shop. Today, we're going to talk to you about the top 10 orbital sanding mistakes that we see people make. Yours might be on the list, so stay tuned. Just like in the 60s, let's just go. Orbital sanding mistake number one, hot rodding. So what we mean by hot rodding is when the sander gets tipped backwards like this. Now, you're not going to intentionally do this, I hope, but when it does happen, typically it could be because your hands are tired or at the end of the day or whatever, or you just the weight of your hand can do this, especially on those longer sanders. But just a little bit can cause only one area of the disc to make contact with the surface, which creates a typical problem. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So tipping back is certainly going to create problems. It's going to create swirls and pigtails and a whole variety of other problems. So stay away from that hot rod. Orbital sanding mistake number two, angle grinding. Number two on our list is sort of an inverse of that. What you're doing is you're angle grinding. You typically, with an angle grinder, you're going to tip the front forward like that, and you're going to be sanding. Now, this can also play over into other areas, but typically you're going to be sanding a little more like this. And there's a variety of reasons why you might think that works, but it really doesn't. Let me show you. So angle grinding has the same problem as the hot rodding does. You want to stay away from that at all costs. You want this to stay flat on this. Orbital sanding mistake number three, speed demon. Now, the number three thing on the list that we see a lot of people do is they're lazy and they're in a hurry. So they don't want to take time to sand this thing the proper way. So what we find that people do is they'll speed demon and just really try to be aggressive all the way around the material and get this thing done as quick as possible. But it's not allowing this to have proper time to circle around. So let me show you what I'm talking about with that speed demon. Now, you don't see that, but by being a speed demon, what you're also doing is you're hot rodding it and you're angle grinding it, sometimes by accident because you're moving so aggressively and fast across the surface. So this is yet another reason we see that a lot of people make these mistakes when they're using an orbital sander. Take your time and let the sandpaper do the job. Orbital sanding mistake number four, target practice. So number four, you're going to be looking at target practice. So let's say we got a little area right there that is not being sanded when you go across it flat. So what we see with target practice is a little bit of this. Or a little bit of that. Now, that's a bad combination because you're using a little bit of that speed demon. You're also using a little bit of that angle grinding, but all you're doing is you're exaggerating this low spot that you're trying to sand off. So again, if you're having problems getting a low area, that means everything around it is higher. You're going to have to work that higher area down to get to it. Avoid that target practice at all costs, because when you go to finish this, that's when you're going to see the problem. Orbital sanding mistake number five, white knuckling. All right, so another mistake we see is that white knuckling. All right, now white knuckling is when you're holding on for dear life and you're putting as much pressure on the sander as you can. Now, either that's because you're using a lot of weight or because you're trying to grip the sander because you feel it's going to run away from you. When your fingers go from being loose and flexible like this to just barely holding on to the sander to where you see the reds down in the palm of your fingertips, that white knuckle, that's wrong. You don't need to grip that tight. You don't need to put that much pressure. You want minimal pressure, allow that sander to glide across the surface. So at all costs, avoid that white knuckle. Orbital sanding mistake number six, skipping rocks. All right. So we've all skipped rocks as kids. Well, skipping grits ain't going to be near as fun for you. So if you're using a variety of grits and you're skipping way too many between each one, that's going to lead to a bad result on your workpiece. So if you're trying to start with 60 and go right to a 150, you're going to be hating life because it is not going to, the 150 can't remove the scratches left from the 60. So don't be skipping rocks, or in this case, skipping grain. What you want to do is stay with that sequence and skip no more than one grit in the range. So if you do have to start with 60, you can skip 80 and go 100, skip 120 and go 150, and if you're going to go higher, you can skip 180 and go 220. But never skip more than one grit in the range when you're doing that. And orbital sanding mistake number 7, rough start. Kind of like I'm having right now, rough start. Speaking of starting with 60, a lot of people have a rough start, and they think they need to start with that really coarse grit to get the job done. But in reality, a lot of cases, you don't need to go that coarse. Starting too rough can actually create more problems for you down the line by forcing you to sand more than you really need to. In most cases, on bare wood, you can get away with starting with, say, 100 grit. If you're trying to remove a finish, a lot of times that same 100 grit will get it done. If there is a need that you have to go coarser, obviously do that. But start as fine as you can possibly go before you go right to that coarse one, because it's going to cause you to do a lot more work and a lot more sanding on a big project to get it done. So be careful when you're getting started that you don't have a rough start. Number 8, penny pincher, for us tightwads out there. Okay, we all like to save money, and there's not a lack of disc options available from us, and there's certainly not a lack of disc options available, out in your local hardware store. The problem is a lot of times when we think of sandpaper, we think of it as a throwaway item, and it is. But in reality, if you try to just base your disc that you're going to buy based on price alone, you're going to be hating life, because a lot of times the cheaper sandpaper, especially some of the stuff you buy in the big box, it does not result in a very consistent scratch pattern, nor does it result in a very good finish when you're trying to lay down a nice stain or lacquer or some other kind of finish on your piece. So buying sandpaper discs just because of price, you're probably going to find yourself not a very happy camper. So buy a quality disc that's going to give you the best bang for your buck in both price, longevity, removal, and ultimately finish. Because as woodworkers, that's what we're striving for, is to create a good finish. So get the right disc for the right price, and you'll get the right result. Number 9 in the orbital sanding mistakes we see is wrong choices. And we've all made them. All right, so the ninth thing on our list is we see that people make a lot of wrong choices when it comes to the sanding discs they use. That's one of the things that sets us here at Klingspor Woodworking Shop apart, is that we have so many options to choose from. Getting the right one sometimes might seem like an endless journey that'll never happen. But we got a lot of information out there available. We got a lot of good technical support to help you along that journey. So knowing your application can help us better help you select the right product for the right application to keep you from making wrong choices on the disc for you. And the big 10, we're talking about the double tap. Trying to use 2 sanders at once. So the number 10 thing on our list is double tap. What we mean by that is trying to use 2 sanders at one time. You thought about it. Well, let me show you the error in that mindset. You just can't do it. It's just not going to happen. So don't think you're going to do one grip with this and follow that up with another sender right behind it. Double tapping this is a bad idea. Okay, so those are the top 10 sanding mistakes we see a lot of people make when it comes to random orbital sanding. If you can think of others that we didn't topic, all right, so those are just some of the top 10 mistakes we see people make when it comes to random orbital sanding. If maybe there's one you didn't see that you do or you've seen, or maybe one that you do that you disagree that it was a problem, comment down below and let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Hopefully this will be the start of a future videos and series as well, where we're going to talk about different applications, right grit, right material, choosing the right grit sequence, making little storyboards so you can truly see what you're going to get when you get to finishing, things like that. But for this video, I think that's about all. We're done. So this is Chris with Klingspor's Woodworking Shop. Don't forget, like and subscribe, ding that bell, all that good stuff, so you'll be notified in the future. Go to our website at woodworkingshop.com. Check out any of these discs that we've shown today, or maybe see what else is available. Or you can give us a call at 800-228-0000. Our customer service will be happy to help you. Well, again, this is Chris with Klingspor's Woodworking Shop, and eat, sleep, CNC, and repeat. And in this case, sand. You have a good day. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching Top 10 Sanding Mistakes with Chris Smith, presented by Klingspor's Woodworking Shop. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and shop us 24 hours a day at woodworkingshop.com.